So by now, hopefully you have managed to figure out which campaign objective would you like to choose from all these available options. Now the next step is to actually find out your target audience. Who are the people that you want to show your ads to and get this main business objective to your business? So basically in this case, I would approach it from the viewpoint of need, want, or desire. So when you think about your ideal customer, you definitely would need to, first of all, check your current customers. That's definitely the start of where I would approach this, because when you look at your current customers and specifically your ideal customers, your best customers, you will find specific characteristics that you will see repeat again and again and again. For some businesses, it could be very straightforward. So for example, if you are selling a shampoo for women, you probably know that your target demographics is a woman in a certain age group that's probably conscious about their visual appearance and maybe their life choices. But if your product is a little bit more, let's say, specific, and maybe it's quite broad, or maybe you are not quite sure to whom to target it, if your business is quite new, then I suggest you to try to look at this specific target persona that you might have gathered from your existing clients and make some conclusions. So is it male or female? Is it both? What demographics or age group do they fit in? If your business is a local business, it's definitely important to also note the city or the country or the specific location where they're located at, or maybe what interests do they have. And once you have noted all of those things, you also have to think about their desires, their wants or their needs, or maybe their problems. Because usually when you are trying to advertise your product or service, you should definitely use a specific angle to do so. I suggest it because once you put a budget behind your ad, you want to capture their attention. And what better captures someone's attention than a solution to their problems or fulfillment of their desire? So in this case, you also need to position your product or service as a solution to their problems or something that can fulfill their desires. So once you know their needs, their wants, their desires, their specific characteristics, you also need to know about their motivations. So what motivates them? What drives them? What's important to them? And this is mainly important when you're gonna try to create an offer for them. But the rest of these specifics are important because those are the metrics that you are gonna try to target them by in Facebook, in Meta. So once we have figured out what's our target audience, then we can target them in Meta. So if you remember the campaign structure, under the ads manager, we had the campaign, and we can have many different campaigns with different goals. After each campaign, we have different ad sets. So right now we are in ad set view. And after each ad set, we can have many different ads with many different placements and many different visuals or formats. But here in ad set, we can tinker with 4 different things. The first is the targeting. So here you can actually ask Facebook, or you can try to find these people on Facebook. You can set a specific age group, specific demographics, specific interests or behaviors, and find them on Facebook, also location. Then second, the placements, also very important. So once you have this target audience, then you can ask Facebook to show them on specific platforms that Meta has. Either it's Facebook, it's Messenger, or it's Instagram. For WhatsApp, as of yet, you cannot show any placements there, but as I already mentioned before, you can use it as a destination. Then also here, you can choose the budget. And for budget, there's actually 2 different options. Either you choose the budget at the campaign level, and then it's going to be advantage plus budget optimization, or you can set the budget at ad set level. How is it different? Basically, if you want to have a very careful test, split test, and if you have many different ad sets under your campaign, you can set this budget specifically for each audience, and you can say to Meta, okay, for each of these audiences, for each of this ad set, I want to specifically spend X amount of money. That could be $10, $100, or any other amount. Or you can set the budget at campaign level using advantage plus budget and just give one number to Meta and tell it, okay, I don't really care which ad set spends how much, but I want you to optimize my budget so it gets the most conversions for the spend, or most awareness, or most clicks, whatever your target metric is, your key performance metric. You don't really need to, have this control over it. And how is one version better from another? The advantage plus budget, which you choose at campaign level, basically it lets Meta do it automatically, so you need less control. You just trust the algorithm and let it do its job. If you want to put the budget in ad set level, that means you have more control. And if you want to optimize it yourself, after, for example, a week, you can see if you had 4 different ad sets under one campaign and each of them had identical budget, you can then check which campaign performed better or worse, how many sales each of these ad sets had, and then you can optimize your campaign by switching off the ad sets that didn't perform or giving more budget to ad sets that did. So it all depends on how much control do you want or how much do you trust the algorithm. If you're new to this, I suggest just using campaign budget optimization, so advantage plus budget. But if you are meticulous and you have limited budget and you want to test more, then you can use the ad set budget optimization. And finally, the scheduling. Here you can put the schedule of your campaigns. You can choose the specific time frame that you want your campaigns to run, or maybe a specific day when you want to launch your campaigns and end your campaigns. There's also such a thing as evergreen campaigns, and for evergreen campaigns, you just don't put specific start or end dates, you just create it and you let it run indefinitely, which is sometimes great for businesses that already have their ads optimized and campaigns optimized. But for businesses that are just testing things out, or maybe they have a very limited promotions in time, then they can use the scheduling to limit them specifically for that time period. So once we want to select our audiences in Ads Manager, we actually have 3 different choices from which to choose. The first one is new audience. And this is the audience that we have already touched upon. So these are the people that you try to find manually on Facebook. Then there is custom audience, and custom audiences are the audiences that are people that have already interacted with your brand before. And it could be both on meta platforms like Facebook and Instagram, like somebody who watched your video, or maybe somebody who liked or commented in your post on Instagram or Meta. It could also be your own audience. It could be the list of your past customers that you have in your CRM system, or maybe your website visitors or past purchasers. So you can use these custom audiences for retargeting purposes. You can gather them in Audience Manager, and then you can show a specific ad only to these people, and it's great for retargeting. And finally, lookalike audiences. Lookalike audiences is probably one of the most powerful tools of Meta, because with lookalike audience, you can find people that are most similar to your seed audience, and the seed audience is the custom audience. So for example, you can give the Facebook the list of your 1000 best customers and ask it, okay, now find me the people that are most similar to these 1000 people. And the results are usually astonishing. So very powerful tool. So now let's take a little bit closer look at each of these 3 types of audiences. The first one is new audience. And these are the people that you are selecting based on this your ideal customer persona. So this customer profile that you probably have already figured out from your past customers, or maybe if you have a hunch, or maybe if you want to test some new audiences that you think might be interested in your product or service. And these are the audiences that we have already discussed the most. These are all the people that you can target or select from the ads manager by their interests, their demographics, their age group, and the location. Here on the left, you can see that we have selected people aged from 31 to 45, based in Chicago, 25 miles around Chicago actually, and those are people that are parents. So in this case, we have chosen specific behaviors or relationship status, and we can see that they are married, they're family friendly, and they are parents. So probably an audience that would be interested in products that are sold to parents or somebody who has a kid, maybe baby products or maybe some school education things. All right, so now let's take a look at the custom audience. And custom audiences are something that you can gather from data, both on Facebook and off Facebook. As you can see here, you have your own sources, which is your website, your customer list, app activity, catalog, or offline activity. So all of these are basically data points that Meta doesn't have access to, because this is your own data. If you have a customer list, you probably already have it, for example, in Excel or in Google Sheets, and then you can upload this list to Meta and save that audience. And usually how it works is that Meta will try to match people from this list to the available data that it has on Facebook. So if the person on this list has the same name and email on Facebook, Facebook will match it and it will find that person on Facebook that you had on your list. And then you can show ads to the specific person. Of course, in many countries, specifically in Europe, you have such a thing as GDPR, and you can remarket only to those people that have given you your consent that you can use their data in marketing activities. So if you are marketing to European countries and using data from European people, on your website you need to have this disclaimer that you can use their data in remarketing. Otherwise, I suggest you don't use this specific method because you don't want to get in trouble for that. But if you have gathered this list with this disclaimer, then I don't see any problems why you wouldn't be using it, because it's probably one of the best methods that you can use for retargeting and later for lookalike audience targeting. Then the same for website. For website, we also can gather people who have visited specific pages, maybe people who added to cart items for e-commerce stores, or maybe people who made a purchase online. But as you can maybe guess, Meta doesn't really have this information, because how Meta would know what's happening on your website, right? Well, for you to use this specific audience, you would have to install Facebook Pixel inside of your website, because without this Facebook Pixel, this small piece of code in your website, Meta will have no clue what's happening on your website, no information, how your campaigns are performing, who went to your website, who bought, and etc. So it's important to install your Pixel both for analytics and for optimization. So those probably are the most important your sources that you can use for custom audiences, but also you have Meta's sources, and Meta's sources are basically everything that's happening on Meta, and that's everything that's happening on your page, everything that's happening on your Instagram account, maybe on your events, shopping, instant experience, lead forms, videos, and etc. And Facebook Meta has all of this information because it's happening on their platforms, and they can measure all the interactions that have been happening on their platforms. They know exactly who clicked, for how long they have been watching a specific video, who engaged, who commented, and then from Audience Manager, you can choose any of the specific options, these specific audiences, and create a custom audience from them. So once you have created this custom audience, then you can use it for retargeting. And in this case, we have a retargeting funnel audience. And in this case, we also set it in Ads Manager. And if you can see what we have included here, because under the custom audiences, there's include, and we're including both of them. So both Instagram engagers and Facebook engagers who have engaged with our brand or business in the last 365 days. And we are excluding all website visitors. So in this case, we want to target all the people that have engaged with our brand, but who have not visited the website. And it's great because we are targeting all the people who knows that we exist, but they have not visited our page and not seen our offer yet. We can also use a similar technique to, for example, target people that have added to cart, but not purchased, and remind them to finish the purchase. So, I see that you have visited this product and we see that you are interested because you added to the cart, but you haven't really bought my product yet. So here's a discount code, for example, for you to finish your purchase. And that's usually something very powerful, and it's just a little bit push forward to get them over the edge and actually make a conversion. Or sometimes they just forgot. There's a lot of times when somebody visits a specific web page, they browse their catalog, they put something in a cart, and then somebody, for example, their wife calls them for dinner and then they completely forget about it. And it's just another way to remind them to finish their purchase. Here's a list for many different ideas where you could consider retargeting. So the first one is people who engaged with your brand on Facebook or Instagram, or people who visited your website, and that's the upper funnel. Here we are again talking about the funnel steps, because the higher you are, the more people you can retarget, because there's just more people. There's way more people who have seen your video, or who has visited your website, or who has engaged with your content on social media than those who have actually purchased your product, right? So middle of the funnel is basically you can choose people who have spent an X amount of time on your website, or who visit specific pages on your website. And finally, you can target people who added a product to the cart, or people who initiated the checkout. And this is already very lower side of the funnel, because these are the people who are kind of hot, let's say, because they already have seen your ad on the web, they have interacted with it either by commenting or maybe liking it, or maybe by watching the video. Then they have clicked on the ad and visited your website. Then they have maybe browsed around, or maybe they have browsed the specific product, and once they have even maybe spent a certain amount of time on your website, they have clicked on a specific product page, and then they have added this product in a cart. So they are already where you are. We know that they're interested. That's why it's lower funnel, because they're so close to the conversion. All the people that are up here, they're maybe just aware, or maybe just have seen your ad, but these people down here, they're already warm. They are very close to the purchase. And with retargeting these people that are super warm, it's very beneficial, because you don't want to lose them. Because getting new clients is actually quite expensive. It's very expensive. But retargeting warm clients, it's actually quite cheap. So this is the best return on investment that you can have in all marketing activities, and that's retargeting the warm customers. Very important point. Finally, the benefits of Facebook retargeting. As I already mentioned, it's the highest return on investment activity. You will spend 10 times more money by acquiring a new client than retargeting warm audience, at least 10 times. And also you have to remember that the conversion rate for retargeting is way higher, and it improves your overall conversion rate. So if you have a specific platform, and if you have a website that has traffic sources from many different channels, you can use retargeting to retarget people who came from different traffic sources. So for example, somebody has a kayaking trip coming up and they're browsing for maybe new kayaking gear or a new safety vest. And what do? For example, they Google kayaking vest, they find some options, then they find a web store where they can buy it. They click on the web store, then they browse around, then they maybe add a vest to the shopping cart, and then they forget about it, or maybe they just get distracted and go away. And then if you have a Facebook pixel installed on your website, you can select that person as your audience. Well, not that one person in particular, but everybody who went to the website and added specific products to their cart but didn't purchase. You can select a specific audience from all of these people and retarget them on Facebook. And with very cheap amount of money, you can convince them to come back and finish their purchase. So very powerful activity. And finally, we have lookalike audiences, LLAs. So these are the audiences that are most similar to your existing customers or to your seed audience that you will give Facebook. It's usually generally advised to have at least 1,000 people in your custom audience before you create a lookalike audience from the same country. The bigger the audience, the more data points the Facebook has, the better it can match the people who you give to the algorithm to the people that's available to Facebook. So it has more data points that it can fit, mix and match, and the more people have similar characteristics, the more Facebook will understand what those characteristics are to try to match them with other people with similar characteristics. And how it works in Meta, it's basically you give it the seed audience of ideally at least 1,000 people, and then it will ask you, okay, which country do you want to create this audience from? Then you pick the country, and then you have this lever from 0 to 10%. And how it works is that the bigger the percentage, the broader the audience. So it's gonna try to find 10% of the entire country that's most similar to your audience. And the smaller the number, for example, 1%, it's the most similar people that there's gonna be. So the smaller the number, the more targeted the audience, the more similar those people are. So the strategy here really is to understand if you wanna go broad or do you wanna go narrow. If you are targeting big countries like United States, Germany, Canada, you definitely want to go for smaller percentage because they have a lot of users. They have big user base with tens of millions and hundreds of millions of users. So 1% of entire USA, it's already almost 3 million. 1% of country like Armenia, Georgia, Latvia, it's just a couple of hundreds or even tens of thousands, the most. So in this case, it doesn't really make sense to target that narrowly for smaller countries. So if you have a country that's less than 10 million, I suggest you to go at least to 5% and even more if you are even smaller, because there's just not enough people to target. And when we are targeting Facebook, it's advisable to have your audience sizes to set, I would say 100,000 as a bare minimum. Well, 50,000 if you are from a very small country. And if you are targeting bigger countries, 500,000 to 1 million should be the minimum because it just gives more space for algorithm to optimize. Now that we have selected our target audience and we understand if we want to target new audience, custom audience, or lookalike audience, the next step in the ad set level is to choose where we want to target them. And where we want to target them is basically where we want to show these ads to your target audience. And in this case, we have 4 different options. We can show them on Facebook, on Messenger, and Instagram. And as I already mentioned to you before, we cannot do it on WhatsApp, but we can use WhatsApp as a destination of the ads. And finally, the audience network. And you might think you haven't listened to this presentation carefully. You might think, okay, but what's audience network? An audience network basically is all of the affiliated websites and apps that have been partnered up with Meta. So you can use their available inventory, maybe on the sites of their websites, or maybe as a pop-ups on their apps, to also showcase them ads and your offer and your promotion. So once you have selected the platform where you want to show the ads, or maybe you just want to show your ads on all of these platforms, then you also have to choose which placements do you want to use. And here you have to have some considerations in mind, because not all ads would be suitable for all placements. And how they differ basically is, first of all, in which app are they used, but that's the most, not the metric, because for example, you can use feed ads both in Instagram and in Facebook. And also for right now, stories, you can use it in Instagram, you can also use stories in Facebook, and they even have stories in Messenger right now. But what's important here is the size, the different proportions of your ads. So if we talk about stories and reels, your ad should be vertical. Or if you have horizontal or square video or creative, you might target feeds instead. So basically here you have all the different variations where you can choose to show your ads to. And sometimes I suggest you to use multiple placements. By default, Facebook will ask you, do you want to use automatic placements? And here it's called Advantage Plus placements. And in this case, you would just, if you click yes, then it will just show your ads in all of those placements the best it can. But that's not always the most optimal option, because usually you'll have your video either in horizontal format or in square. And I actually suggest you to use square format as default format, because it just takes more space in the feed. But it will also the same square and show it in the reels or in stories format, which is not ideal because you are not utilizing the whole vertical space. It will just use small portion of that whole vertical space. So what I usually suggest to do is to create separate ad sets. One ad set with feeds and all the other options enabled with square format. And another ad set which has only stories and reels enabled with only the vertical version of. And then you can run both of these versions side by side and test which one works better. Or you can just leave them in one campaign, which is Advantage Plus optimized, and let the Facebook split the budget as it deems necessary, putting more money where it can get more conversions from. So these are the different options that you can choose to use for each of the placements. So for example, for feeds, you have the Facebook feed, Instagram feed, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook video feeds, Facebook Red Column, Messenger Inbox, Instagram Explorer, and Instagram Shop. So as you can see, you don't really need to choose and pick each of these different options. So once you select feed, it will show all of these options automatically. And when you want to choose where to show your ads, you also have this option to choose them automatically using Advantage Plus placements and let Facebook algorithm choose it for you. Or you can take a more manual approach and create a separate ad for each placement and then test which placement performs better. I usually go for the version that I suggested earlier, that you use all of the options for square except for reels and stories, and a separate ad set only for reels and stories, excluding all the other options. That usually gives me the most flexibility and option to choose the right placement with the right format, and it also gives Facebook more options to choose from, so their algorithm can optimize better.